happy that you've made time to come and listen to me on this early Wednesday morning. I bet you're wearing joggers in this crazy post-COVID world. So in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to talk about how biology and behavioural science will help you be a better leader. I'm going to invite you to join me on a journey to imagine a better future of work that works for people. I'm going to explain how you can join the growing tribe of imaginal leaders. And I'm going to explain how the CREATE framework can help you to win. And now I bet you're wondering what an imaginal leader is. Well, I promise I will explain, but first let me tell you a little bit about me. So I'm Katz Kiely. I've been figuring out how to use digital to support big companies of all different sorts through the sometimes painful process of transformation. So when I'm talking about transformation, I do not mean bringing in tech so you can carry on doing more of the same. I mean real transformation. I mean a marked, permanent change in form or nature. I mean changing the way that organizations work, how the people who make up the company feel and behave. I'm talking about operational and cultural transformation. So my particular shtick is working with open data and open innovation and rapid prototyping and collaborative design. You'll note a couple of words in there that are not normally associated with big companies: open and collaborative and rapid. But anyway, I've been building platforms and approaches that aggregate and visualize live data from people to crowdsource opinion, empower employees, and support culture change. I designed the very first ever, as far as I know, open innovation platform for Hewlett-Packard back in 2004. And if we were in a room together at this point, I would say, if you designed an open innovation platform before 2004, could you please put your hand up now? But that's going to be difficult in this situation. After that, I changed literally the way that a UN agency works. And I built a city-scale platform to harness the power of people to drive sustainability. Now I head up a company called Beep. We built a platform that operationalizes all of that experience, all of the results, all of my learnings from the last 20 years. One of the things that I've learned over those 20 years is that all companies and organizations face the same challenges. They make the same mistakes, whether they be pharmaceutical or financial or public sector. 'Tis the same thing. Interestingly, the same approach works to fix it. I'm not a massive fan of stats, but here's a few that I think you may find interesting. I reckon that companies are wasting around $11 trillion every year on failed transformation programs. Why do they fail? They fail, 83% of them fail, because they don't consider culture or people. Now think about that. After all of that spend on technology, the most expensive item on any P&L is people. 85% of those people are disengaged. 34% of the salary of every disengaged employee is wasted. And between 30 and 50% of most companies' P&L is people costs, right? You do the maths. The company that you're working for is probably wasting a lot of money if its workforce is checking in and checking out. So what most companies are doing right now is not working. But what is working? Well, research has showed by all sorts of smart cookies, you know, we're talking MIT and McKinsey and the like, they have proved conclusively that companies that embed what we call future ways of working, or future wow, are 4 to 26 times more commercially successful than competitors. And that's a fact. So what are they doing? Why does it work? What can you do to learn from their mistakes and learnings? So many questions. Well, I can tell you it all starts with leaders. It starts with imaginal leaders and abiding by the rules according to what we call the Bible of Beep. What does this all mean? I will explain, I promise. But first, let me tell you a little bit more about what we're getting wrong. Well, first, we treat companies as if they're machines. They are not. They are fragile fabrics resting upon people who are profoundly rational. Our operating models and the way that we deal with change creates cultures of fear. People are afraid to speak out and terrified of getting things wrong. Work is just not working. You see, as I say, companies are not machines. They are more like biological organisms. Why? In a machine, every little inanimate part is engineered absolutely perfectly. Every little part operates independently, blissfully unaware of every other little part. Machines are built to do one thing very, very well. If a machine breaks down, or if a foreign body finds its way into the finely engineered mechanisms, it grinds to a halt. A mechanic comes out, replaces that part, and the whole thing runs again as if nothing has happened. Machines are really good at doing one thing really well until that thing isn't needed anymore. And then the machine becomes redundant. It's really, really hard to adapt a machine to do something else. Unfortunately, most companies are run as if they are machines, with blueprints and separate departments and separate regions. Leaders thinking they can switch out one thing, put in another, and the whole thing will continue as if nothing's ever happened. What makes a biological organism different to a machine, and why is it a better metaphor for your company? Well, every single cell in an organism works together to adapt continuously to its environment. Bear with me here. What would happen if you realized your machine was more octopus than it is printing press and started treating it as such? So how does an octopus work? If an immovable object or a predator is near, the whole system works together to kick into high speed to avoid that thing. If the temperature changes, it senses that change. It moves to somewhere more comfortable. The brain, the organs, every single cell are connected in an always-on system of sensing and continuous amends across continuous feedback loops. If you chop one bit of an octopus off, it impacts the entire organism. If a foreign body impacts the organism, the whole body works together to get rid of that body. We all know about corporate antibodies, right? Interestingly, if you think about it, an entire integrated system of a biological organism is geared towards one thing: adaptation to survive. If you lead like a mechanic, switching people and processes and platforms in and out and expecting no impact on the system, you will end up with a machine, inflexible, incapable of change, and soon to be redundant. And while we're on the subject of change, let's look at change through the lens of neuroscience and how most people get it dreadfully, dreadfully wrong. Humans, by which I mean the people inside your company, are the only Homo sapiens to survive. Our brains haven't really evolved since the very beginning when we were pootling around on the savannah. Essentially, we have two key states. We have the reward state and the threat state. The reward state is our social state. The reason that humans survived while other Homo sapiens didn't is because we're extremely good at keeping social groups together. So in the reward state, and we're talking here about psychological safety, we're collaborative and we're innovative and we're communicative, all of the things you want your employees to be. In the threat state, on the other hand, which is the state that we evolved so that we're being chased by large, growly, saber-toothed tigers, we can get away really quickly. Neurochemicals get pumped into the brain so we can get away. Collaboration and innovation and communication, all those things are a little bit less important when you're talking about survival. In the threat state, all we want to do is run away and hide. So what has that got to do with leadership? Bear with me. Close your eyes for a second. I can't see you, so I'm going to have to trust you. Remember the last time that unexpected change appeared from nowhere. How did that feel? So every time unexpected change is thrown at your teams from out of the blue, whether it be a new technology or new leadership or new ways of working, it doesn't matter if you're doing it to do good. If it comes out of the blue, people go into the threat state. They have a physiological reaction and they probably don't even notice it's happening. They start to see threats where there are no threats, and they're less able to think straight. They're less able to focus. Their memory, their decision-making, their productivity drops. And when you're stressed, your immune system drops, which further impacts your ability to be efficient, to perform. And because we're herd creatures, which we are, if I feel anxious, the people around me feel anxious, and the people around them feel anxious. And their anxiety spreads across the organization like wildfire. So if you bring change at people from out of the blue, people will go into the threat state. Now, the new normal, as we all know, especially now, is going to carry on being increasingly volatile. There isn't going to be a slowing down of a need for change. We have to be geared for constant change and continuous learning and continuous proving. Getting things wrong is an unavoidable part of learning. So you as a leader can respond to people getting things wrong in two ways. You can blame them and punish them, or you can give them permission and encourage them. Now, conventional wisdom and old leadership says that you need to punish and chastise if they get it wrong, or they're going to get it wrong again. But that is not the right thing to do. Companies need to build constant innovation and continuous improvement into their DNA to be able to adapt rapidly to rapidly changing markets. Research has proved conclusively all sorts of research by all sorts of clever people, Stanford, MIT, etc., that companies that play their blame game are less creative, they're less innovative, they're less profitable than those that foster trust and psychological safety. It's common sense. So here's what imaginal leaders do. They admit they get shit wrong. They create a safe environment when their teams feel safe to talk about their mistakes so everybody can learn from them. They recognize their cognitive biases. And here's a doozy. Did you know that we are hardwired to always think our own ideas are the best ideas? We only see the information that we want to see to back up what we believe to be true. We buy into the myth of the heroic decision maker, the leader who knows best, always. Imaginal leaders don't do that. They make decisions with people, not for them. And it gives everybody the best chance of success and avoids the damage in playing games should the project fail. How can the finger of shame be pointed at one person if a leader has involved and invited input from their teams all the way through? Again, it's just common sense. Let's talk about a couple of people who I think of as being imaginal leaders. Brad Smith, the CEO of Intuit, said something very, very smart. The lesson to me is to treat failure and success equally. It's a chance to learn, Smith said. He's all about encouraging the inner entrepreneur, the inner problem solver from everybody at every level in every department, because that's what imaginal leaders do. They create psychological safety so people feel comfortable with change. They give permission to be fallible and to point out when things are not working as well as it could be. So let me give you a couple more quotes from other people who I consider to be imaginal leaders. How about Yuri from Waze? Fall in love with the problem, not the solution, and the rest will follow. And another from the adorable and super smart Bracken Darrell, who's the CEO of Logitech. He says, and I say all the time, everything can be better, always. So now let me explain why we call imaginal leaders imaginal leaders. So when a caterpillar first emerges from the egg, inside it has these things called imaginal cells. And these cells contain the DNA of a butterfly. But they're dormant until the caterpillar starts to grow hard walls around itself, and then it becomes rigid and immobile, and it becomes a chrysalis, which is an important stage between immaturity and maturity. Everything hardens up. The chrysalis is largely defenseless at that point, but inside that hard, desiccated, immovable, rigid shell, a change starts to happen, and the imaginal cells start to wake up, and all the cells around it start to attack it because it's different. So the imaginal cells cluster, and they cluster more, and eventually, when they're all aligned, and not until they're all aligned, then, and only then, can the transformation happen, and the rigid cell split, and it transforms into a butterfly. That butterfly will never become a caterpillar again. It emerges as something that can fly, it can move fast, it can react quickly to its environment. What on earth has all of this got to do with leadership? I hear you saying, well, leaders like me and Bracken and Brad and Yuri have always known that working in more human ways gets better results. We are wired differently, and we're brave enough to push against conventional wisdom. We realize that just because it's normal does not make it right. We've got different DNA, and that's not easy because we humans are hardwired to resist change, and we are tribal. We release neurochemicals that make us behave in a defensively aggressive way to those who look different, who think different, who behave differently to us. So we imaginal leaders who have the DNA of a more human-centric future of work don't always find it easy. Like imaginal selves, lots of people feel threatened and behave in defensively aggressive ways. So we have to find other people like us, and we have to cluster and cluster more and prove future ways of working are the best way to get people to work at their very best. So I mentioned that I now run a company called Beep. We provide a set of building blocks to support real and lasting cultural and operational transformation by helping imaginal leaders succeed as they embed the 6 pillars of the CREATE framework. These are the backbone of environments in which humans survive and thrive. They are the conditions in which people are in the reward state. And they are C for connection. Regular touch points of connection and learning are key to any resilient community. R stands for reward and recognition. We've got one precious life. People should be thanked for showing up at work a lot. E is for empathy. The best leaders are mindful about where people are coming from, where they are, and where they want to go. A is for autonomy. If people know where they are heading and what success looks like, give them the tools so they can get on and be the CEO of their own lives. T is for transparency. Open communication and data means challenges emerge and are visualized just in time so you can respond quickly. And E is for equality. People need to understand why decisions are made and that everyone at all levels are abiding by the same social contract. And what are the core principles to the Bible according to Beep? I do not have time right now to go into any depth, but please jot down any questions. And I would love, I can talk about this stuff forever. So let's talk about it in our Q&A, which is straight after this. So the key principles are successful change will only happen if it's done with people and not to them. Learning is experiential. You have to combine feelings with knowledge and action. And that way learning sticks. And learning should be always on. Everyone in your company should be incentivized to be their own chief learning officer. 3, may have mentioned this before from my dear friend, everything can be better always. So make sure you're always looking for those little points of improvement. 4, transparent, open, real-time data allows everyone to see problems as they happen. If you can see a problem, people will rally around to fix that problem. Humans are hardwired to see and solve problems. It's smarter to fall in love with the problem, really understand it from multiple perspectives before you go into co-designing the solution. And the solutions that you design in that way are going to be a lot better, more workable, because actually they've been seen from different perspectives and designed with different ways of looking at the world, and therefore they're going to be more holistic. Every single little tiny problem is an opportunity to improve. And the only way you're going to improve those is by finding your internal imaginal leaders. Find them, connect them, reward them, recognize them, empower them, treat them with respect, and they'll do your work for you. So how do we help imaginal leaders to help their people to be the best they can be? Well, we've got a range of things that we do because we realize to just go in with the technology, not such a great idea. So what we do is we've got, we do these things called Imaginal Dens, which are for C-level leaders from different companies. They're invite only because we need to cluster with our own kind too. We need to find people who believe the same things as we do and speak the same language. So they're all on Zoom. They're 6 90-minute experiential, dynamic, action-packed sessions where participants are pushed to the edge of their comfort zone. We show the power of the CREATE framework. They connect by learning, by doing. They're like rapid design workshops where we co-design leadership hacks for the things that we all struggle with. Communication, decision-making, motivation, stamina, energy. And we put them into practice so that they can feel and see the difference that it makes to them and to their teams. And then we do Imaginal Leader Dens inside companies to help senior leaders to find their own inner Imaginal. And we give them the tools and the knowledge to thrive and allow their teams to thrive. And we do cultural maturity mapping against the CREATE framework so that we identify dormant Imaginal leaders across all departments, regions, silos, and we bring them together to co-design a roadmap to the future wow against clearly identified KPIs and achievable stepping stones so that they can see progress. And once we've activated and connected and empowered leaders, then we can provide the software that operationalizes future wow at speed and scale, but in a way that works for people. So essentially, it's a permission engine. It's a decentralized platform that surfaces shared challenges and empowers people from across the organization to connect and to find solutions in rapid prototyping workshops. And of course, we live and breathe by our principles. We are on a mission to show every leader that Imaginal is the only way to go. Thank you.